I think that would be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what do you got going on there?
Okay. I went to a place called Mary Ellen's today. Soul Food. They're in the old Teriyaki Madness store out there by across from South Point. Food's fantastic. I will say that. Um, but the owner saw my Redskins necklace and he said, "Yes, same thing. Everybody's asking me right now. What do you think about that?"
Right.
Well, if I'm being honest, I cry at night.
Right.
No, I'm hurt and I'm angry, like every Redskins fan is. But it goes a little deeper for me because it's a lifelong thing. But I actually explained to him, that the history, the story, the real true story behind how we got our name, and years later how we got the imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, he was really thankful for it. But one of the coolest things I've ever seen, this lady wrote. She wrote a post on one of my groups. Um, said, "This is my grandfather, Lewis Rabbit Weller. He was one of the original Washington Redskins. The team was named in honor of him and another teammate. Changing the name of the Redskins will change my family history. My opinion as a Native American and direct descendant of the Caddo Nation. I'm proud of my grandfather's legacy." Now, I'm going to show you these real quick if you want me to show that. Okay. Look at this, ma'am. That is her grandfather.
All the same guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's him. That's the
Yeah.
rabbit. So I was just, it's like a lot of people don't, somewhere along the trail that the narrative came out, oh, it's racist. And then that kind of jumped over to, it's a racial slur. And, that's people that are trying to win a lawsuit and possible big payday.
Right.
It's
Mm-hmm.
the Oneida Nation started this, and they don't have a chief of their tribe. They have a CEO, and it's a gentleman who's a casino mogul. It's a billionaire, and he appointed himself CEO, fired his own father, and actually his blood not real. He doesn't have a lot of. His percentage is really really minute, but. I don't know. I'm not gonna name it right now because I want to make sure I don't get you or myself sued. But it's pretty. It's very public information
Mm-hmm.
who this gentleman is. But he hired a Navajo girl. Uh, I don't mind saying her name. She can't sue me. Amanda Black Horse, beautiful native woman. It was a genius move on his part because he wasn't getting anywhere. He lost in court several times over the years. But Amanda, this beautiful native girl with the long flowing hair and travels with the little group of followers, and he has very deep pockets. He can send her anywhere and pay her very well to talk about how hurt she is by this name and how it destroys American Indians. And
Is she legitimate? Like you said, that one guy may not have as much blood as.
yeah,
Is she
yeah,
legitimate?
she's very Indian.
Uh,
There's no question on that. But her motives are it breaks my heart because she's a likable person as far as when you talk to her. Like at some of these, we go to the rallies and she hates us. Oh man, she hates us because we're fighting for the name and for the truth. And she's like, "You guys are messing up my good payday here, my
Right.
easy payday," because she knows and he knows right now white guilt is at an all-time high, and they're taking advantage of that to the best of their ability. Of let's get what we can, and let's strike while the iron's hot. And I'm telling you, it's just we've whooped them in court a couple different times. We've proven their narrative wrong, but the mainstream media they'll interview Amanda 1,000 times. They won't interview me once. So that's our uphill battle. The media is on their side. They have a certain narrative. It fits a narrative. They love that drama. But now that they've gotten the name pulled away, our groups emerged quick enough and hard enough that instead of renaming us right away, we got that year. So now we have a full year to really get on our horse and say, okay, here's the truth. But we need to make the media, the mainstream media, ESPN, NFL, all of them actually interview some of us.
Hmm.
Because 90%, at 90% rate, American Indians are like, we love the name. We're proud of the name. It instills pride. And even half of those don't even know the actual true history of the name. And
Hmm.
when they do find out, they're even more on board.
Hmm.
And so it's been a couple months of really trying to educate, and we're trying to we're really trying to get it, educate, don't eradicate, quit taking native imagery away. They, I don't know where it stops, but right now nobody's doing us any favors. You're not. It's not. They're like, oh, we're fighting this in the name of racism. As they march along and everything that they don't like, they're just trying. And that's. It wasn't the name changers. It actually wasn't uh, Mr. Ray. I'll call him that. Um, and Amanda, it it was the social justice warriors after the George Floyd deal. Twitter, big Twitter war of, it was almost like everything's racist. We're gonna get rid of it all right now, and it's like they accomplished in 2 weeks what these name changers have been losing at in court for 30 years.
Hmm.
And so, it came up every couple of years, but Mr. Ray started that way back, and he never could win then, so he got his pretty little pawn to start doing his bidding and working for him. And I'm telling you, it's ridiculous because it's an uphill battle for us, and it's like it shouldn't be. And unfortunately, no poor me's, but fact of life, American Indians have very, very, very little in our own country. Uh, Not even a national holiday, and we have plenty of heroes that
Hmm.
also, from our nations before America was established, and certainly since, plenty of American Indians have served in the armed forces and been huge heroes. And the code talkers from not just the Navajo, but several several different tribes had code talkers that saved this nation. So
Right. Yeah, I saw your post the other day, and like I had seen the movie, so I know like a tiny bit about it. I'm sure, it's not the whole thing. I was wondering if you can give us a little bit of background on like would you say code talkers or wind talkers?
the name of the movie is Wind Talkers, but yeah, I mean, I don't think either is wrong or incorrect or what. In this day and age, who knows? I mean, it could be Wind Talkers, and if I emphasize the second half, talkers more than win, somebody's going to be offended and turn their hair green and go protest. I don't. And probably win the argument in the court of public opinion. So I don't know but I don't think either of those is wrong. Um, and actually, I'll encourage people to watch the movie. It's fairly accurate. They do leave stuff out, but what I want to say about them more than anything is four of the code talkers came to DC as honored guests of the Redskins, and these are some of the most important human beings this country's ever known. In my in my in my beliefs, in my heart, I think they are some. I mean, they are the biggest heroes, and I I was so amused that not only were these incredibly, I mean, they're very famous.
Hmm.
Uh, they're absolute legends, and all four of these gentlemen were so excited to receive the Redskins Letterman style jackets.
Hmm.
Um, they all wore them. They were so excited about it. They were just wearing them. They were, and they were so proud to. That's a
Hmm.
beautiful image on there, and they know who that man is. That's on that imagery. That's Chief Two Guns White Calf, legend.
Hmm.
Uh, these are legends looking up to the legend that adorns the side of our helmet.
Just different eras.
Yeah, and I can tell you a little bit more about them later. But the those guys were excited to wear that. There's one guy that didn't wear his because it was chilly and he was warmer than what he was in.
Oh.
And had some layers going, and it was so funny because I hear a story that at the end of the after they were honored, and when at the end of the game they went to give the coats back, and the Redskins said, "No, that's yours." And they were so excited they got to keep them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like, I mean, it's like they said, the comparison was like little kids on Christmas Eve, man, big wide eyes, like, we get to keep these,
Right.
and I'm just like, okay, so if they were disgusted by the name or the imagery, I don't think they'd even showed up.
Right.
And that's something that a lot of people just don't even get. It's like, and they'll, people argue with you no matter what. Like, well, Snopes said this, or what. It's like you can never win the argument.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, the imagery. Okay, let me go to the name real quick. The name. Some of the northern tribes, when they went into battle, they had certain warriors that had really proven themselves over several battles that would participate in a blood root ceremony of painting themselves red.
Mm-hmm.
It was for the elite warriors only, and that was done with a lot of prayer, meditation, even fasting before you did the ceremony. That marked you as an elite warrior. So when you went into battle, you've already made a promise with the Almighty. I'm ready to die today.
Mm-hmm.
Bless me in my movement so that if I don't, I get to return to my family. The red guys, that's also a way of telling the enemy, I'm that guy.
I'm one of the better.
I'm that guy.
Yeah.
You stand out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that like in the field, you don't have officers with shiny brass like when they're walking around on base because, well, the sniper's going to take them out, right?
Right.
They're important. In those days, well, they really weren't snipers.
Right.
But if you were that badass that you got to paint your skin red and be a redskin warrior, you were telling them, I'm not afraid of you. And so it was it was more of a status than a name.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of like the elite, like the special forces of that tribe's soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
We're the best. So when the team itself was in its early stages, they were the Boston Braves. They won several championships long before there was a Super Bowl, and this gentleman right here was one of the people that was responsible for that. And the owner's like, what can we do to really honor you guys? And they're like, let's move away from Braves, since even baseball teams have that. They want that elite warrior status. They're like Redskins.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it was born. Well, then let's fast forward several years later, 1970 or 71, that 70-71 season, when they had moved to the D.C. area, local tribe there, Blackfeet Indians, the Blackfoot tribe, know the name, they understand the ceremony, what it takes. Now, mind you, when these guys were red and in war, the minute they were done, they were washing that off because they're like, I'm still alive because you've already told the Almighty I'm ready to die.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that you've survived the battle, you have a family to get to. You will get that off you. And you're like,
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Now it's time to be a family man. I
Yep.
guess.
Now time to go back to being a family man.
Mm-hmm.
But the Blackfeet tribe knows that tradition. They're part of the. Not all tribes participate in this. It was mostly the northern and eastern. So the Blackfeet tribe knows that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you're missing a giant opportunity here. There's an R if you're going to hold a prestigious name like that, you need the imagery that goes with it. So they gifted that image of Chief Two Guns White Calf, White Chief Two Guns White Calf, to the Redskins as a forever gift.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Don't give this up." They meant it. And it's like that's the hardest pill to swallow in all this. Is like it tumbled off this incident, and it has nothing to do with preserving our race, our history, our customs and traditions. It pleased a couple of protesters who now are onto their next thing. They don't really give a shit. Mm-hmm. And if you're truly you were trying to look out for us, I owe you a thank you that's this big, because okay, I get but you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you've hurt way more than you've helped, and they don't care. They're on to the next several things by now. And 90% of them probably don't even watch football.
Mm-hmm.
Or care. It was just something on their agenda, and it's like, the same thing with the Land O'Lakes losing the maiden after 100 years.
I didn't even know about that.
Oh my God.
That's crazy.
That's how crazy it's gotten. It's like they're after everything, and it's like, why are we reducing Native imagery in this country? Why don't we learn more about the history and celebrate it, instead of everything you see that's Indian is racist, and just sweeping? And it's like, oh man, you're eradicating us. We're going right back to the genocide. It's mind numbing and it's crushing. But
especially like with Native Americans, right? Like that's what you say, right? Generally, or what do you?
It's not incorrect. I personally reject having to use that term to be right with anybody, and there's a lot of people that argue with my child too, because she believes like I do. She's like, I'm an American Indian.
Mm-hmm.
I was born
American
Indian.
Indian.
I was raised better. Indian. We're indigenous to this land, and another myth, just like the Redskins name being a slur, being wrong, is everybody thinks that we were called Indians by Christopher Columbus because he thought he was in India, and it's like, that's about. Everybody believes that garbage still, and it's like, you also believe George Washington never told a lie, and chopping down the cherry tree or whatever that was. It's like, it's no more true than Christopher Columbus discovered America. And don't get me wrong.
Right.
There are history buffs that'll argue every point of it and saying that Christopher never landed on this land, whole nine. And it's like, we can argue till we're blue in the face. Fact is, Christopher Columbus did not name us Indians because thought he was in India, and that because people are like, see, even Indians is wrong. It's not. No, we called ourselves Indians 200 years before Columbus made any kind of landings, and that stretched all the way down through South America. Yeah. Mexicans, Aztecs, you go all the way down through South America. 200 years ago, we were the same people.
Right.
And that's, and that is near and dear to my heart. And if anybody ever wants to look into some of this stuff, because it was interesting to me, because I'm like, how did we get our asses kicked and our land taken? Every Indian I know will fight you to the death. And so it's like, how'd that happen? These people can't even be out in the sun more than a couple hours. Right. But that book, there's a book called 1491 by Charles Mann. I think that's what it's called. I should have brushed up. Anyway, I read it so many years ago. 1491 by Charles C. Mann explains the Americas 200 years before Columbus.
Oh, okay.
And it is the most incredible fact-finding book you're going to read on American Indian history. So it's a little, every once in a while you run into a chapter you got to read 2 or 3 times because you're like, what? It's so technical.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Other than that, it just flows because it tells, it gives a lot of historic information. It's not fiction. Here's something almost nobody knows unless you read the book. 200 years before Columbus, in the area that's now St. Louis, there was a city that was as populated and as advanced as Rome. Why don't we hear about that? How do we not know anything about that? And it's not speculation. The ruins are there. The fact that, I mean, it's like that's, and it's like, why is that such a secret?
Did they have steel and everything? Do you know, or?
I I don't know that.
Hmm.
I would have to say yes, because I mean, how do you build something, a city like that, without that? I
Hmm.
mean, but I didn't go into that, and honestly, I would love to know more about that. Um, but the book does say probably isn't as widespread because nobody really wants to talk about how many millions of people were slaughtered to take a country.
Hmm.
And the only thing people think about when they think about American Indians is Dances with Wolves, that era. And that's all they really. I mean, nobody thinks that there was ever anything before that. And it's just, and it's crazy because what the big answer that book gave me was, why did we get defeated? Our asses kicked and our land taken. Because by the time we got around to where the full flood of folks were coming, we had been wiped out almost completely 3 times in rebuilding, and so they fought a skeleton crew.
Hmm.
That's what it was left, and that's why people think there really weren't that many Indians, and it makes sense because, well, yeah, about 70% of us were already dead and in the ground by
Hmm.
the time the invasion, if you will.
Right. Yeah. No, I gotcha. Yeah. No, that is crazy. And so they were working with a skeleton crew. They had already been wiped out a couple times, and then so it was settled, or settlers came on like the cusp of one of the
Swine
rebuilding.
flu.
Swine flu.
Swine flu was the big one.
Hmm.
And there were several other plagues and a lot of diseases that, and honestly, some of the traders that showed up, pretty
Intentionally.
pretty dirty tactics.
Yeah.
Uh,
I heard about that.
infected blankets and whatnot. But and here's another part of the ugly history is, you know, um, a lot of those ships stole a lot of people from here, and they went back to Europe as forced as slaves.
Hmm.
So I heard Shannon Sharp going off the other day on a ESPN deal. And he had some very valid points, and the black population has been through a horrific history here, but they're not the only ones. Every single nation has dealt with slavery at one time or another, and it's like almost every race has been affected by that. So I don't ever want to take away how awful slavery was here, but I really wish we as Americans could start concentrating on, yep, that was horrific and I get it. Let's also tell the rest of the story. Our nation was great enough to bend itself in half, fight itself to end that.
Hmm.
And they won. And I think, I mean, that's a great part of history. And it infuriates me to hear people say this nation was never great. No, it is great. It has been great. It was great before 200 years before Columbus.
Right. It's just not perfect. You know
Nope.
what I mean? But I mean,
No
I don't know
place
where
is.
else I would prefer to live.
I
Like nowhere.
I'll tell you, I've circled this globe twice as a Marine,
Hmm.
and I've seen a lot of places. And boring old Lincoln, Nebraska is 100 times better than most places.
Hmm.
And it's like, and we're kind of slow and boring here. There's some pretty exciting places, and granted, it depends on what your cup of tea is, but I mean, you can't drive into Colorado and not marvel at those Rocky Mountains.
Right.
Okay, Idaho and Utah are even more beautiful in my book. It's just amazing. I'm just like, who knew? I found out last year because I ran across country with my buddy Andre to go defend the Redskins' name at the high school level for a couple different schools that were fighting it. Liberal uh, liberal school boards moving in from out west, taking over, and ooh, this is racist. Let's change that. It's mind-boggling.
Did you find that there was a good bit of support out there? Because I feel like,
Oh yeah,
you know,
those people are passionate.
right?
They are
Yeah.
passionate about their the long history, and they're like, we love this imagery. We love the tribe. We love the history of the tribe. What's racist about it?
Hmm.
Because you're offended. You found it offensive when you ran away from the mess that's now California. And you're on a scoreboard now, and you like that little bit of power, I guess. But it's like you can't take your twisted ideas from there and force them on people here. It just doesn't work well, and they're fighting.
Hmm.
We've had success for a couple of those. One did fall that we went to defend, and they're in the process of getting it back now. So it's embrace native imagery. Don't erase it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, hopefully they get that back, but it just stinks whenever, like, a lot of people or get their rights taken or whatever, like, they're not coming back. That's, why people are crazy about guns and stuff like that as well. But everything that I know about, American Indians and stuff like that it's always associated with pride. Like, there's even, like, a pride trucking that, as, like, American Indian imagery and stuff like that. So, I mean, I feel like everybody should just kind of get that and not touch it.
That would be awesome. And honestly, it's like I'm not. I mean, I speak a lot about it now, and I'm passionate about it only because there's some wrongs going on right now that I would like to help correct. But I'm not an angry Indian, like, oh, fuck the white man, fuck America. I'm not that dude. I belong to this land, to the ground that this nation was built on. I belong to that. And I'm proud of where we live. I'm proud of this country, and it's like I was from earliest of ages. I wanted to serve in the military, and we grew up in it was pretty rough where we were. I wasn't on an actual reservation myself.
Mm. And where are you from again?
I'm from Lawton, Oklahoma.
Lawton, Oklahoma.
It's an army city. There's a big army base there, but a lot of our family was about 30, 40 minutes away in the Anadarko, Chickasha, Oklahoma City areas. So, but as a kid, I grew up in our traditions. My grandma, I used to be so pissed. Be out crawdad fishing in the creek or wrestling with the guys or playing street football. Go in early and have to take a bath. The most humiliating thing in the world. And then she'd throw me in the car and we're off to a powwow. And I mean, it'd be half hour away, 45 minutes away, sometimes 3-4 hours, and it's like, but she was faithful to it and held me to account of, even when we got there, you're not running off to play until you're done dancing. I was a gourd dancer, and I'm so thankful for that, man. Because I was taken away from that at a fairly young age. Came back to it several times, and it was just one of those things. Like, man, there's so much pride of I got to do that. I got to live in my family, in my traditions, and with my tribe, and the Kiowas are responsible for the gourd dance, and so I'm so thankful for that stuff now. And I look back and it's like, I love Oklahoma and I love making fun of it because it's rough.
Right.
But I love the red dirt. I love that there's buffalo that run free out there, not far. I mean, 10 minutes down the road from where I live. And so I wish more people could see stuff like that and then understand we're not just the people of white clay that have it so bad and drunk in the streets and hopelessness and poverty and despair. That does plague most Indian communities.
Have you been out there?
I have not been out there. I mean, I've been through it, but no, it's not my tribe. It's not
right.
my, but I've sent, I like to quietly do, I'm not patting myself on the back here, but I've sent a lot of support that way,
Mhm.
and I do like to contribute because those are still my people, even if it's not my tribe.
Mhm.
And I love that we have some passionate people here that are willing to step out and help those guys. The community is they when you're born there, you're already born at some disadvantage, but you're kind of in the negative column for what you have in life already.
Mhm.
And it's not their fault.
Right.
And there's a lot of things I want to see change. If we're gonna have political figures jumping in and weighing in on Indian this or Indian that, let's cut the shit with the Redskins name. Let's actually make some changes out there. Start. I mean, like right now, the free commods, the groceries that they get, it is. You'd be disgusted to know what they get. White bread, lard, white flour, butter, cheese. That alone, with the white flour, the white bread, the lard, that's the diabetes starter pack. You know?
There's no nutritional value.
No. And you look at it, man. I mean, that's been going on for 72, 76 years. How many generations have grown up on that?
Mhm.
It's just it's horrible. It's rough. It's criminal, and nobody cares. And people are very well aware of it. They don't care,
Mhm.
and that's the hard part. And this is not a popular sentiment, but I'll never not say it. The racism is a giant issue right now, and everybody's fired up because what's the big story? White folks not treating black folks right, and that's all anybody wants to hear. And it's like, I'm from a race that nobody gives a shit about enough that we don't even matter. So, like, even if you point out the horrific program that the government has set up for Indians, everybody's like, "Ooh, that sucks. That sucks." Poor Indians. Let me go back to something that I don't want. I don't want to deal with this. Let me go back to whatever I was doing. And that's our leaders that have that attitude. I think a lot of people do. Most people do. But our political leaders, it's like I've been on a crusade my whole life to try and get some change in Washington, D.C. I've never had a letter answered, not even a phone call back. And I won't dime out the people that I've tried to get a hold of in D.C. because you can call your senator.
I know who that is. Yeah.
You can call your
Yeah.
representative. You can call. Everybody cares when it's an Indian issue. That's how many years the news just they would show 3 or 4 Indians on a corner protesting Columbus Day, and it was a joke. It was a joke story. Oh, and these guys don't appreciate Columbus Day. Blah blah. It's like it's a laughable issue to them, and it's like.
Well, do you think that that's legitimate, Columbus Day? Or maybe even changing the name of Columbus, Ohio?
I'm not cancel culture minded. I would love to see Columbus Day wiped off the books here, personally. If nothing else, because he was a horrible, horrible human being. Rapist, kidnapper, murderer. And that can be researched. You can fact check me. I stand behind it. But so, yeah, let's not honor that guy. And honestly, I do want an American Indian holiday implemented at the federal level. The other day it was Wind Talkers Day. Who knew? Nobody. It's like, okay, how about why don't we change that? Let's do that. If we're going to do all this change and we're culturally aware, this is a very diverse country. If we're gonna make some change, let's make some change. Like let's start there. I mean, I think a lot of change has already been made, but right now I think it's so drastic and so reactive. I don't know that a lot of healthy changes happened so far. I mean, where are we at in America right now? Defund the police. Defund the police. So you want warlords running around in the streets, because that's what's going to happen when you do defund the police. Which, I'll be honest with you. Somebody like me, or with guy, there's a lot of guys like me that have the training, that have the experience. If we fell into a lawless society like that, you're going to have warlords, and you're going to have dudes that become kings. Right now, if I went downtown, everybody in a suit and tie would probably ignore me or avoid me. But it's like, right now they're the power guys because they have, they're legislators, whatever. They help, and even at the local level, these guys think they're some kind of untouchable gods. It's like, man, it only gets bigger when you go to D.C.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, if we ran into a moneyless, lawless society, those are the guys that are getting wiped out first. You're going to be bottom of the, it's like,
right.
You guys don't understand what you're asking for here. And
right.
It's like, man, careful what you ask for, people, because the people screaming and all that being heard right now in this society, if we have that reset, nobody's going to listen to you. You're going to go right back to being quiet, because if you don't, you're going to get smashed. And that's what they don't realize that's what they're kind of screaming for their own destruction. Opinion.
Yeah.
You can't Google that. That's just my opinion.
Right.
I'm like, dude, that's how Somalia is. It's warlords.
Mm-hmm.
Lawless.
Right.
And it's like, people here need to leave these borders once or twice. I think a lot of our country's problems would be fixed because people would come back and be like, we've got it really good, and this is a really, really great place to live. This is a country,
mm-hmm.
great country to live in. I don't know,
and leave and actually go someplace where you might be, in the mix of something, not the Dominican resort, not to the Bahamas,
not to Cancun.
Yeah.
Where people are bringing you frozen drinks all day, and you start the day off with a couple of frozen ones because it was a little rough last night. Yeah, that's not the same, but and it's like, I don't know. It hurts. It really hurts me deep to hear Americans that are ashamed of America. And granted, everywhere I ever went, whether it be Germany or the Far East or the Middle East, nobody likes us. Everybody hates us. I get that, because we're the new kid on the block, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
With only really being relevant since 1775, which Marine Corps is 1 year older than America, which is why there is an America. But personal opinion again.
Right.
Don't Google me.
Well,
but
definitely.
And it's like, okay, so for 240 some years, we are babies compared to some of these places that have been around established for thousands. Mm-hmm. That's why they hate us. Like, how did you guys take over the world so quick?
Right.
Mike Tyson didn't wait 13 years to make a run at the championship because he felt other people were ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I have that power and talent now. I think I'll take what's mine.
Right.
And I'm sorry, you got to have that mentality in this world, because the world is not fair.
Right.
It's not going to worry about your little feelings.
No, not at all. It's funny that you say that, because my girlfriend likes to travel, like, around Europe and stuff like that. And then people will say, like, Man, I don't like these people, or Americans. But you're okay, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, she literally got that like multiple times, so I kind of get what you're saying.
She must
Yeah.
be a pretty awesome person because as soon as they hear our accent,
Well,
they are already like, ew.
like especially with COVID and stuff, that's why they blocked off a lot of Americans because like a lot of people just think they can do whatever they want. Like,
What? That's racist.
yeah,
You can't block us.
yeah,
Blocking people from your country is racist.
yeah,
That's funny. There's the people who scream about that are real quiet about it now.
yeah.
Huh. So I can't go to. Well, now I want to go to France.
Nope.
They don't really hate me, do they?
Right.
Oh, yes, they do.
One thing I wanted to ask, was there any like specific thing that made you want to join the military, or you said that you had wanted to, like since forever?
Yeah, honestly, um, it goes pretty deep, and maybe even a little dark. But I'll give you the Cliff Notes version because I tend to ramble. If you haven't noticed, um, Gabe hates my comedy because he's like, you need to cut it short. And it's like I need to adopt a little more of his style because he's a one-liner guy, punchline guy. I mean,
Yeah.
not a one-liner guy, punchline guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, no, I tell the story, but it's funny 'cause, yeah, I think I'll benefit huge from that. But Cliff Notes, and there's no poor me's here. This is just God's honest truth and fact of life, and that's how it was. My father was an absolute psychopath, and very, very, very young when my brother and I were born, and he was lost in his way. I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Was an outlaw, very, very violent man, and as a young boy, I heard all the praise for the Marines from everybody I was around. It was an army town, and everybody talks about, oh man, those Marines are so tough, and I just remember hearing that. I'm like, that's the only kind of dude that could probably whoop my daddy.
Oh, wow.
So I was
Yeah.
like, and I saw enough stuff that I didn't like as a kid, and I got smacked up a few times, but I didn't care for. And I remember thinking, all right, hit me. I grew up to be a Marine, and I'm gonna kick your ass. And that's where it started. Just I wanted to be a Marine so bad. And thank God, and I don't think I ever saw a full episode of Gomer Pyle because that probably would have killed it. I would have been like, what? They're a bunch of clowns. But, I read books on it as a kid. I was just fascinated.
Mm-hmm.
So fascinated. And the Marine Corps drill instructor, I mean, I saw that, and that was my number one goal when I got in. I wanted to be a drill instructor eventually on the drill field, and I wanted to be drill instructor of the year and be on the front of Leatherneck magazine. I never got to that, and that's okay because it's like I got to see the world. I got to serve with some of the most awesome dudes. I mean, just went to a 30-year reunion. Man, we picked up where we left off, and my wife got to little frog in my throat. My wife got to meet some of these warriors that I chewed dirt with 30 years ago. It's like all of us saw the worst part of humanity, and we got to benefit from the best part of every one of us being brothers. No matter what our background was, what our race was, what our religious beliefs were, where we were from. It's like whether you had that Kentucky drawl or the Brooklyn, go fuck yourself, brothers.
Right, yeah.
And she got to put faces with some of the names and the stories, and so, it's like, it was just awesome. And it was the last 4 days Vegas was even open, which I've got no use for Vegas generally, but when they said that's where it was, we're like, yeah, we got to go. And oh my God, we had such a blast. Neither of us are gamblers at all.
Me neither.
But it's like, we had so much fun there. You don't gamble, you don't even have to do it.
Right.
It's like, okay, we're going back. That was awesome. So, yeah, when things I guess we're all going to get back together in October. So, But yeah, as a kid, I just wanted to be the toughest dude I could possibly be, and hopefully one day whoop the shit out of my daddy.
Right. Yeah.
So, and as it turns out, as I got older,
Mm.
the good Lord always has a plan. It
Yeah.
got to be where I was. I gave him full forgiveness. I had peace, and when he passed, I was glad that he at least got to see a picture of my child, and I was so happy to hear that before he died, he saw her picture, he cried, and he said it was the most beautiful baby he'd ever seen. I'm like, good. I still love you. You're my father, but I hope that hurts. You walked away from all that, and I'm glad you got to see her
Mhm.
because she was a beautiful little, gorgeous little Indian baby. And it's like I'm glad he was proud and whatnot, but I'm glad it hurt a little bit because that tells me he at least still has a heart, which
Right.
I doubted that for a long time.
Yeah.
But and he discovered two brothers and a sister when he passed. So I was like, man, he gave me a blessing as he left
Right.
because I love my brothers and my sister. Got
Mhm.
to meet them all, and they have their families going, and it's nice to have two more brothers. At first I didn't know how to feel about that. It took me a minute. It's like because I grew up with my two brothers, then find out you have two more. And it's like I want to meet them.
Right.
A different time in life I wouldn't have. I would have been like, nope.
Good.
And I'm so glad I did because I absolutely love them.
Yeah. For sure. And kind of touched on it a little bit. How did you get into comedy?
Something I've been fascinated with stand up my whole life. Watched every
Mhm.
single stand up I could possibly watch. I think probably as early as 7th or 8th grade. And I remember going to the video store, which we'll have to explain that to some of your viewers what that is.
Right.
I'd rent the tapes and just watch stand up all the time.
Mhm.
And then I always wanted to. It just never occurred to me to ever actually go try it. And I was just want to say that would be so fun to try, and they say out of pain is born, comedy's born out of pain, and it's like I got plenty of that.
Right.
So it's like
Yeah.
I'm not a poor me, and even though I'll tell the story, I'll share stories, but it's like I don't feel sorry for myself. I killed that. I killed that a long time ago because it's like the first time my parents forgot my birthday, I was so butthurt, but I wasn't about to let them know.
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna mope around. I'm not gonna drop hints. If they forget it, that's on them. And so my brother's like, man, that's messed up. I'm gonna go yell at him. I'm like, don't say a word. And so I had a thick skin from early on.
Oh yeah.
And then honestly, I give all the credit to Gabriel Frere.
Yeah.
My counterpunch comedy partner, because he opened that door for me by, he went and did it and shared with us, and then he went and did it again here locally, because his first one was like in Florida. He's like, if I bomb, who cares? I don't know anybody. They'll never see me again.
Yeah.
And so then when he went down here and did it, it was fun to watch, and it was just like, it was fun to watch him. It was painful to watch some of those. I'm like,
Right.
oh man, what are you guys doing? And I'm like, oh, if those guys are up there, I could at least give it a shot. I could stumble through something. And honestly, he gave me the encouragement.
Mhm.
And I told my wife that first night that we watched Gabriel, I'm like, I've always wanted to try that. And even then, it wasn't even occurring to me to go downtown and try it.
Mhm.
I just thought, man, Gabriel's got some nuts, man. I could never imagine that. And then he encouraged me, and Jim. They were both going over the show that Gabriel just done, and it was just kind of cool because they're like, man, you should throw something together and try it. And then as soon as we got home, my wife was like, why wouldn't you?
Right.
She's like, you're so brave, you do all this other shit. If you can go do a Baton Death March, you can do 5 minutes of comedy on a stage. And I was scared.
Right.
You know,
No,
like,
I get it. I was scared last week, but Gabe,
Oh,
yeah, he
man.
got me to go up. But I was like, dude, no.
I couldn't believe
I'll just
you-
go up next week. I'll go up next week. Like,
I couldn't believe you said, "Oh, I don't really have anything prepared," and you said you were nervous. I'm like, and then you went up there and just killed it.
well, I
I'm
had
like,
it prepared, but I mean, like, I
I'm
didn't
like,
feel that confident.
That was badass.
But oh man, it felt really, really good after. But
Good.
you know what I mean? Like
I
you never
loved
feel
it.
like you're totally prepared. I don't.
You never
anyway.
do. And honestly, I could think about what I'm gonna say all day.
Mhm.
I've never gone up and got on stage and said what I said I was gonna do all day. Like most of my thinking's when I'm mowing, and
Yeah.
I'm out there for 2 and 3 hours mowing, and it's like, ooh, this is, and I need to start writing things down, and I need to start getting a structure because I don't have a style. I mean, I have a style. I have a long, rambling story style.
Me too,
I
kind
need to
of.
trim it, but I also need to start studying my old stuff and putting together an actual act so that I plan on taking the next step. You know, I'm not gonna, if I'm doing open mics in 5 years, beat me in the head with a hammer and tell me I should have quit 4 years and 6 months ago.
Mhm. Well, you see some of the guys who are talking about doing paid gigs, and I mean, they're not the greatest. I mean, I'm sure like they're working out like some material here and there,
yeah.
but I mean, like it's not like crazy outstanding. It's not
Yeah,
anything that
it's-
we can't do.
I know.
I would say.
And honestly, it seems reachable. And this kind of
Yeah.
goes back to the Mike Tyson thing. You know, it's like you got to take your steps and you got to take advantage of openings, opportunities, and you really have to work on your craft. And honestly, I've done the first two. I need to work on my craft because I don't. I'm very, very raw, and I know I could benefit from some crosswork with other people and their styles. And Gabriel said he's willing to help me trim shit up. Cool. Let's do
Yeah.
it. Any
Yeah.
chance? Yeah. That's another excuse to sit and have some drinks and laugh.
Yeah.
I'm all
Sounds
about
good.
it. That's all. Let's jump on it.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, anything else?
No, this was fun. I'm glad we got through it outside too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
It's
no.
probably going to be snow tomorrow, so
No kidding.
This was our last chance.
Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming by, and we'll have to do it again. Maybe get Gabe in here, and we'll really chop it up
That would
too.
be fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Start roasting each other halfway through your show.
Oh man, that'd be good.
Awesome. Well, thanks.
All right,
I
definitely.
appreciate you
Thank
having
you.
me, man. Thank
Yeah,
you.
anytime. Thank you.
Oh, shit. Sorry. I forgot.
Yeah.